Bubba, Matt, and Kate are scattered to the winds before their 100th episode. Well, that means you get the B team of your cut man, Jonathan, and his longtime friend, Aaron. But fear not, we will be talking about what games we've been playing, the billion-dollar slug-out between Fortnite, Apple, and Google, the spoiler-free reflection of Death Stranding, and The Last of Us Part 2. That and more on episode 99.5 of the Free Play Podcast. You are listening to the Free Play Podcast with Bubba Stallcup, Matt Warmbier, and Kate Katawaki, part of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network. What's up, nerds? My name is Jonathan Clausen, and you are listening to the Free Play Podcast, part of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network. Joined with me is not Bubba Stallcup, or Matt Warmbier, or Kate Katawaki. They are on vacation, playing board games, visiting dead cowboys' houses, or playing with animals. They are just not here, and when they come back together in a week or two for episode 100, you will get to hear their voices and not mine. I am the cut man that you never hear, that Bubba always mentions, but I am joined by my longtime friend, Aaron Hansen. Say hello, Aaron.
Hi, yes. I am the last demon that was let out of Pandora's box, and I'm here with John today to ruin his life.
And as he does on numerous occasions, and we're just going to be talking about things that we've been playing, what's been happening in the news. We're recording this on a Thursday evening, the day before it goes live, so we're going to have some up-to-date news for you for the show today. So first off, as we always do, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been playing. And Aaron, since you are the guest, you get to start.
I mean, the Animal Crossing update just came out, and because I have been waiting on Nintendo to deliver something a little bit more meatier, I held off on the first update and then came in just a bit ago on the August update. And my island is full of weeds.
And your hair is all crazy, you said?
Oh, yeah. In any Animal Crossing, like when you've been gone for like an extended period of time, you come out of your house and your hair is like... How
long is an extended time?
It's been like 2 months. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a hot sec because, I mean, you know, like if you look at my like Switch Online profile, it's fully... I have played for over 135 hours, you know, because... the end of the world happened right when it came out, but I wanted something a little bit more meatier. I honestly, Nintendo could have delivered New Leaf 2 for me, and I would have eaten it up. And while I love all the customization stuff, I just want more things to do in the game. I want the animals to give me errands. I want to have more shop upgrades. I want more.
Well, what was in this update that made you come back?
Fireworks in any game I love. Like Final Fantasy 14, they'll do fireworks every year around the Moonlight Fair, and I eat it up every single time. I sit in the home area and just listen to the soundtrack and just watch the fireworks in the sky. I eat it up in any like games of service kind of nonsense. So I came back for fireworks.
Who has better music, Animal Crossing or Final Fantasy 14?
Oh my God, Final Fantasy 14, the breadth, it is immense. I mean, you've heard me talk about 14 before. It is.
Yes. You convinced me to buy it again and subscribe for 6 months, and I still haven't played more than 2 hours.
That sounds like a personal problem.
It is.
Patch 5.3 has come out within the past 2 days. Please join again, where they have streamlined the original first like entire release of the game. Like,
yeah, because
2.0.
I was reading through the news feeds, and everything was like, this is the perfect time for new players to come back.
The free trial now includes all the way up to the first expansion. So you can go all the way up to like level 60, I think, for free.
That's not bad.
Which is insane. It's an insane amount of content.
What's the level cap on the game?
80. I want to say it's 80 right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Because 70 was Stormblood and then 80 was Shadowbringers. I finally finished Shadowbringers a month or two ago, and then I held off on a couple patches, and I came back with this one. Transcendent.
Maybe I'll get into it.
No, you're not. You're going to play Death Stranding again, and then you're going to play like Borderlands again for like the 7 millionth time.
No, Borderlands 3 did not.
He says this, ladies and gentlemen, but then like I'm going to get a text in like a week being like, I'm playing it again.
Borderlands 3 did not grip me. I loved 1. I loved 2. I'm one of the weird people that actually enjoyed pre-sequel. Borderlands 3 didn't do it for me.
You heard it here first, folks. He's a weird person.
It just didn't. I played the first expansion. I played a little bit of the second. The main thing for me that Borderlands 3 I did not like was the user interface and the gun selling mechanics. It was so annoying that in the first 2 games, you had this beautiful interface where you could sort all your weapons, right? Pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, grenade mods, all this stuff. In Borderlands 3, it's like they threw them all together in a popcorn maker, and they all exploded, and you can't sort them, and you have a hard time selling them. And it was so annoying until they fixed it. I quit before they fixed it, and I have no desire to go back.
All right, well, but you just said that they fixed it, so that means you'll probably go back.
No, I'll play Metroid Prime 3 before I...
Friends, that is a long-running joke where his son and I have been bothering him to finish Metroid Prime 3, and he refuses to do so. It is the one holdout and is the one point in his life where he has power, folks, and we'll get him.
Place. Yes.
We'll get him.
I did start over. I did create the new save file.
You did. I was there for that, yes.
Yes. And this time I'm going to have to use a strategy guide of some sort because the thing that held me up last time was I got to the final part of Metroid Prime 3, and you have to have this one item from this one Federation ship, but you can't get to it unless you have found all the batteries in all the other levels, and I'm missing like 3, and I felt no desire to go through a checklist and go through all the batteries because I couldn't remember where they were, and I wasn't going to spend 20 million hours backtracking through every level or going through some online checklist. So I'm just like, I'll start over, and I'll make sure I get them as I go.
You said it was like, what, 10 hours you'd already played? Like, it's 10 hours. Who cares?
I'll live.
We're in our 30s, people. I don't care about a strategy guide.
I have the guide.
I know.
And I will use it. I have it out. It's sitting on my IKEA coffee table upstairs. And I shall use it after I get bored with Death Stranding.
We have some product placement there, folks. IKEA, guys. Wowzers.
Well, so you've been playing Animal Crossing and you've been playing a bit of Paper Mario. Anything else?
Yeah, I've been playing Paper Mario, which I like a lot. And this is my first Paper Mario because I am an awful person. And while it is delightful and any game that you could possibly describe as charming, I've probably already thrown money at it. Because I love whimsy, and it is hilarious, and I don't think the battle system is quite deserving of the hate it's probably gotten online because it works. But
it's the one with the circle, right?
Yeah, it's like a little mini puzzle game, and it's fun. It's not like wildly gripping, but it works. They probably could have just made it an adventure game, and like it probably would have flowed better. Because I do find myself avoiding like trash mob fights.
It's not random encounters. If you see the enemy, you can run up and start whacking them, it still takes you to a separate like battle screen, right?
Yes.
But it's not like you're wandering around the field like in an old school Final Fantasy and then the screen flashes and then you're in secret battle land.
Yeah, no, that's how it is.
Okay.
Yeah, you get your own little battle scene. It's like it'll say like whether it's a wave battle or blah blah blah. All this is like in the weed stuff. For the most part, you can avoid the battles. You see them on screen, but every once in a while you'll hit a point where they're like random enemies, blah, 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 and they throw them at you. And so you have to go through a trash mob fight, and the game throws coins at you, which is basically experience. So you never really need to battle. Like they give you so much. But
would you say the game is too easy?
I wouldn't say it's easy, but I do think the battle system can be a little tedious. But like it's still fun, and the writing is top notch. Like it is just relentlessly hilarious. But I do think that it's still once again not what, like from what I've seen, what people who play Paper Mario want, which is Thousand Year Door again.
But it's not the same though. It's two different.
It's the
ideas
same
of a game.
series.
But it's the same series, but it's a completely by this point we're how many Paper Mario games away from Thousand Year Door?
3?
I thought 4.
Maybe. Super Paper Mario, Color Splash and Sticker Star or whatever. Those are Color Splash was after Sticker Star. So yeah, we're 4 away.
Okay. Yeah, cuz developed by Intelligent Systems, blah 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 blah. Thank you Wikipedia.
Well, there's also like parts like a lot of the stuff that, again, from what I've read, this is not firsthand knowledge here, but I just like being on the internet a lot because I'm a nerd. And I like reading the discourse. It's that a lot of the stuff that like Thousand Year Door excelled at, Miyamoto didn't like. There's a lot stricter restrictions on depictions of Mario now, and like new characters that like subvert what we think of Mario things aren't allowed. That's why you see a lot of the origami characters come in, because they are completely new and not from the Mushroom Kingdom, as it were. And so that's where I believe what they have to do, based on what I've read from developers. That's like, this is what we have to do concerning Mario, because there are now restrictions from Nintendo.
He's like on the Mickey Mouse level. You always have to have two ears showing at all times, no matter which direction his head is turning.
Kind of, basically, like they're like, nope, this is not what we deem Mario now. Which, I mean, that's very Nintendo. Where like I love them deeply, and like they will have a grip on the physical manifestation of my nostalgia at all times. They are also truly just stubborn as a company, but it's also where they got to where they are. So, womp womp.
Yeah, well, you've been dealing in whimsy. I've been roiling in nihilism, and I don't even know what to call Death Stranding.
I wouldn't say it's nihilistic.
Well, Last of Us 2 I would call nihilistic.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say Death Stranding is. I would say Death Stranding's pretty hopeful.
Death Stranding is probably... It's so weird.
It's kind.
I finished Last of Us Part 2, and we're not going to talk about spoilers here, so don't worry if you've now heard those and you haven't played either of those games yet, which, by the way, if you haven't, you should.
Yes, consume.
We will talk very generalisms. We will not talk spoilers, so don't worry. You don't need to fast forward. I finished Last of Us Part 2, and as... in my 38, almost 39 trips around the sun, it is the most depressing game I have ever played. Narratively, beautifully constructed, visually, Naughty Dog's finest work to date. But it's like Breaking Bad. There's no hope anywhere. And then you move over to a game that I just wrapped up again, Death Stranding, which... is it a walking simulator like a lot of people complain? I would say, yeah, it's a fair assessment of it. But at the end of the day, it's about connections. Like, you can't... Last of Us Part 2 has a body count that rivals like some small wars in third world countries, where Death Stranding, if even one person dies, it turns into an almost hour-long process of trying to fix the mistake before you basically destroy the world because of what you just did.
I would even say Death Stranding is like a walking simulator, and like I stan Everybody Goes to the Rapture, which is a walking simulator. That is a walking simulator. Death Stranding is more like Amazon simulator, I wouldn't give it that, but I will say that like just how not I would say Death Stranding is very hopeful comparatively, and how it treats the world itself as peaceful, and like I don't know, I don't have my thoughts organized together on this, but I like it a lot, because I also like Japanese nonsense a lot too.
And this is a Hideo Kojima game, and this is the guy who did Metal Gear, the guy who did Zone of the Enders, so it's very out there. And you were watching me play parts of it, and like you were, one thing you said that struck me, and I don't think it follows through all the way to the end, but there are notes, I guess, and this is true of most anime, there's a lot of notes of Eva in it. Evangelion.
Banger. Cruel Angel Thesis. Banger.
Maybe we'll play that for like 10 seconds before the YouTube copyright algorithms
bop.
Yes.
Right, yes. But I mean... But you can draw a thread too. Like, I mean, like at the end, especially, like you can draw a thread with like the Kingdom Hearts nonsense, which I eat up with like a shovel. Just give me end of the world dramatics. I adore it. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you could draw a line to it, but I don't know whether. Yeah, I don't think it follows through all the way.
One thing I got to the end of Death Stranding, and again, we're not going to spoil anything, but the thing that the journey that Norman Reedus' character takes, or Sam Porter Bridges takes on this metaphor with a sledgehammer approach that Kojima is
He's
famous
literally
for.
a porter that crosses bridges.
And builds bridges and connects people on a chiral network. It's insane.
And with his Norman fetus.
Yes, with Norman fetus. It has a name. We won't say what it is because you find out fairly late, but it does actually have a name. At the end of it, he's gone from this loner who has no connections, who doesn't care about anybody, who's become this now altruistic person who loves everyone that he's been with and has forged the connections no matter how much he tries to deny it in the game. And it's just a very touching experience. And even though the only interactions you have with humans are either through a cinematic narrative or as you're delivering stuff to people, like your actual interaction with people, like the way you and I are sitting across from a table right now, we can look at each other. And this one, you're interacting with people mainly through holograms. And it's so weird. Kojima loves to comment on technology and its effect on society.
The entire thesis of the game being, it's because you on that phone.
Yeah, because you don't get paid in money, you get paid in likes. If you find other people who have built bridges or zip lines or other things to help you in the game, you pay them back with likes. It's so crazy in how it has no negative interactions with other people, which I also really like. But yeah, it was such a refreshing game to play after Last of Us 2, which just left me hating life and hating people and hating everything because it was just so heavy of a game. It's like when you finally finish Breaking Bad and you're just like, okay, I need to go watch a Disney movie for like 10 hours to rebalance your brain after what you just watched. You have Death Stranding. You have not played it yet yourself.
No, I very rarely like playing anything other than my Switch, which, I like my PS4 is just fine, but if I can sit and watch YouTube while I play something on my bed while I play handheld, that is the Switch for me, baby. I love it. The only games where I probably didn't play a lot handheld were Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 because Monolith Soft worlds are giant and deserve to be HD. And I wanted it HD, since Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was trapped on the Wii in 480p, I wanted it, in at least 720. So let's see, see it there.
Yeah, and we won't go into that, but it was nice to see it on the Switch finally, for sure. And also, if you like to watch other people play games, don't forget we at Love Thy Nerd have our own Twitch channel, which is, of course, Love Thy Nerd. And as always, we encourage you to take a look. If you are an Amazon Prime member, don't forget you can subscribe and help us out here by joining the Prime Gaming service on Twitch. It is free. You get one free subscription. Just feel free to go over to Love Thy Nerd on Twitch. We'll have the link in the show notes, and you can subscribe. Or you can, if you're feeling really generous, you can gift a subscription to someone or multiple subscriptions and help us out. You can watch shows like Matt Plays Games Badly. You can watch Bubba play board games with his kids and complain about spiders running around the floor of his garage where he tapes, and so on and so forth. But that's about it. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this, and we're going to talk about some of the news this week and the consoles coming out later this fall. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the second section of the Free Play Podcast. I'm your host again, Jonathan Clausen, and joined with me as always is...
the physical manifestation of your father's disappointment, Aaron Hansen.
Welcome back, Aaron. Always a pleasure to see you, even though it's been Aaron's over at my house a lot, and whenever I leave, I was raised very formally, and I'll always say, thank you, Aaron, for coming. Have a wonderful rest of the night. Drive safely. And your response to my pleasantries and my genuine thoughts of concern for your well-being are always... Yes, exactly that. So apologies, fair listeners. So what do we want to talk about this week? There's been a few developments. We're recording this on Thursday. It doesn't really matter to me too much because I personally detest this game, but I know a lot of people play it. A lot of people love to give their money to it, and we're, of course, talking about Fortnite, especially if you play it on mobile devices. As of this recording, Fortnite was taken off the iOS store. Now, it doesn't mean you can't play it. If you still have it, you just can't update to the latest version as of this recording, which is Thursday it's a little after 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is currently developing. But apparently, Epic has decided to do what they are not supposed to do as app publishers on the Apple Store, and that is allow people to buy Fortnite V-Bucks directly without using Apple's in-app purchase thing. Which cuts Apple out of their 30% cut. Tim Sweeney was very vocal about this. In fact, he posted something back on July 28th on Twitter, and I quote, "Apple has gone crazy. If colleges hold virtual classes through an iPhone app, Apple could demand 30% of the tuition. Truly, Apple has no right to take any percent of any company's revenue just because they made the phone people use to access the stuff." Should also note Tim Sweeney is worth $9 billion, but that's neither here nor there. Aaron, what's your hot take?
I mean, it's a fight between two billion-dollar companies. I don't care. You know, like, I suppose that there's like, I hate giving anything to Apple. But, you know, there was the contract that they entered into. Like, I'm sorry, it's not like some righteous fight. You know, it's not like the government taking your money. It's a business contract. They have no right to take 30%. Get out of here. Whatever. You know, like, just...
Well, just to clarify, on Apple, I'm reading directly from Apple's developer website. Section 3.1.1 says, if you want to unlock features or functionality within your app, by way of example, subscriptions, in-game currencies, game levels, access to premium content, or unlocking a full version, you must use in-app purchase. Apps may not use their own mechanisms to unlock content or functionality such as license keys, augmented reality markers, QR codes, etc. Apps and their metadata may not include buttons, external links, or other calls to action that direct customers to purchasing mechanisms other than in-app purchase. So, by Epic offering people the ability to buy V-Bucks directly through the app, not through Apple's payment gateway, they are in violation of this. So Apple yanked it, and now what's really interesting, it's not surprising, but the Fortnite PR machine is in full swing, kind of rising the fans up against Apple, which doesn't surprise.
And it also is amusing because it's the same tactic that like Valve used against the Epic Game Store. Like, gamers rise up, kind of nonsense, which how incredibly gauche for, oh God, I'm so pretentious, for them to use this when 30 million people are going to be, you know, on the streets by September because of evictions, you know, like, grow up. I suppose that's rich as I'm on a gaming podcast right now, but it's just like, man, just deal with the 30, like, you are a $1 billion company, like 30%. Oh my God, get out. And then like, so like I get the usage of like the 1984 ad when you've made a de facto social hub, right now while we're all, you know, somewhat quarantined, unless you're an essential worker.
Right. And what Aaron's referring to, if you haven't seen it, because this is fairly late breaking at time of recording, is Fortnite is doing a kind of a, I don't know what you would call it, a parody? A subversion of the iconic 1984 app from 1984 when Apple introduced Macintosh, because they had this great ad. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It is, how did you describe it before we were recording? You said it was an iconic moment of advertisement or something like that?
Yes, as a person who wants to go into advertising but despises, you know, corporations, because I'm a moron at all times. It is an iconic moment of advertising. Much like I think it is just something that like is emblazoned on the media's, you know, cerebellum. Like it is a piece of advertising that you can always recall. Or refer to.
And they're running a very similar ad mocking it for Apple being the closed off Orwellian state that they themselves were mocking back in the 80s.
Which, that is a fair take.
It is a fair take.
That is a fair take, but also Epic, get out. Like, come on. I'm a big corporation and I can't get any more money.
Ah, man. But so, yeah, and it doesn't mean you can't buy the V-Bucks. There's many avenues to buy V-Bucks, even if outside. Like, if you go to any physical retailer, whether it be Walmart, GameStop, it's Target, doesn't matter. They sell V-Buck cards that are platform agnostic. You can get V-Bucks on any platform and not have to do it digitally. So the only thing you'd be losing as a consumer is the convenience of doing it on your phone. And we always suggest go out and support your stores. People definitely need as much, job security as they can right now. So if you know of a retail store that you like to shop at, if it's a local mom and pop shop, if it's a GameStop, if it's a Target, if it's a Walmart, they sell those cards. Go out and get it. Spend some money locally. Help out the local area if at all possible. Also, speaking of finances, let's talk a little bit about what we have coming up in November. Microsoft has confirmed, vaguely, that the Xbox Series X will be out in November. They have not confirmed a date, but they have confirmed that month. We still don't know a price. Depending on what site you read, it can be anywhere from $399. I've seen as high as $899. I've seen it all over the map, and I have no crystal ball or inside sources to tell me what it's going to be. I think that both platform holders are waiting for each other to blink. But regardless, I think it's safe to say we're looking at least close to $400, plus any games you want to get, any extra controllers, that charger base, all the accessories that you're going to want to get day one. You're looking at least around $600-700 purchase. And this is a tough time for people right now. I mean, thankfully, both of us sitting here are employed, but there are a lot of people that are not. It's a rough patch all around. So if you're a console holder, if you're a platform holder like Sony or Microsoft, or even Nintendo at this point, and you see the sales of your consoles just shooting through the roof right now because everyone's at home and has been spending their money on stimulus checks, what are your thoughts as we go into the fall season and as we go into the holiday season, and we're going to see Target's already announced they're closed on Thanksgiving. Walmart's announced they're going to be closed on Thanksgiving. We don't know about GameStop yet, or other retailers for that matter. We have these expensive consoles coming out. What are your thoughts about, are people going to be able to afford them? Should people be buying them day one? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, as always, like if you can afford to do so, like knock yourself out. I, as a person who has worked in many industries that have been open on Thanksgiving and Christmas, good that they're closed. For one, like it should have been that way, regardless of whether we had the end of the world going or not. But I mean, it just feels like you're already pushing back Halo, which, oh my gosh, that's like their killer app that they have for Microsoft.
And anyone watching that stream, the gameplay looked fine. The grappling hook looked great, but those graphics, and granted, it was on a compressed stream, but later if you go back and you watch another version of it, the direct upload, it still didn't look, wow, this is the next consoles. It just...
And I do think that we've already reached diminishing returns in terms of like, photorealistic graphics. And as a Nintendo stan, it's not like I am like, wow, fidelity, you know? But I do think it's somewhat a little reprehensible to go on and like have this advertising cycle and to go on and have like to want to push these consoles out at the end of the year. And like, I get that many people's jobs are on the line for it. And I get that like, these are things that were set into motion long before the end of the world happened. But as we have seen, the United States' response has not been spectacular. And that will be one of the biggest markets for these consoles. And I do think it's not great to continue going on as if nothing's on.
So if you were Microsoft or Sony, what would you do?
I mean,
if you had the power to do what you felt was conscionably right in this situation, what would you do?
I don't know. That's the thing. And of course, I'm sitting here armchair,
quarterbacking. Yeah.
I don't know. It's I guess, maybe push it back, but it's so hard. Like, and I understand, like, I've seen this a lot with like my shows wanting to go out and go to a concert again, I've seen people have to basically postpone until they can figure it out. And while like there are like, dates being announced in like Europe and things like that, where things have settled down a little bit more, I still don't know when I'm going to get to go see Lady Gaga in a dumb pink outfit again yet, like, I guess maybe push it back to like,
think the spring.
I was thinking like Q1 or Q2, but even then it's still not going to be great. Maybe around tax time.
When people get their tax returns back.
Yeah, maybe that would be like a wiser decision because,
take away the discussion of the capitalistic morality of it, if you will.
Oh, but that's all I ever want to talk about, John.
I know you do, but let's think about the supply chain issues too. If you are someone who's been trying to find a controller, a headset, or a console of any kind the last few months, you know that it has been hard to get a hold of them. If you are one of the few who've been lucky to get into a Target or a Best Buy when a shipment comes in and they just happen to have them, great. Or if you saw one on Amazon that you had to have, but the only option was, the $600 plus scalpers who had, held on to them and are now reselling them. It's hard in supply chains. My wife works with supply chains out of China, and they're still not back up to full speed. And some people have even thought that the reason Walmart and Target have said they're not going to be open on Thanksgiving is they may not have the supply for a lot of the stuff that they want to have in stock, that a lot of these cheap things that are on sale may not be in stock by the time Black Friday rolls around. But regardless, if the consoles do launch, Xbox is committed to November as of this recording. We still don't have a time on PlayStation. It's probably, I'm willing to guess that it's going to be a very, very limited first run of these consoles.
I'd have to imagine it would be. I mean, you saw how Switch supplies were when how supplies are. Like, even though sales are through the roof, it's still hard to get this stuff in. Like, as a bartender, I constantly have to tell people, I'm like, I don't have that beer you want right now because we are still literally in a pandemic. These things aren't available to me, and I can do the best that I can with getting you something similar, but I can't give you that same experience. And I think it's going to be the same with Sony and Microsoft. You're not going to be able to get the supplies that you need. And I know Nintendo in their like last quarterly financial briefing, they said they were like pushing up and getting more supplies in, and like things are getting better for them, I suppose.
And they also made so much money.
I know, I love it. It's so like, and this is like the biggest hypocritical part of me, in that where I'm like, capitalism, but then I'm also like up at 3 a.m. when Nintendo's financials come out, and I'm like, yeah, Animal Crossing sold 22 million. Wow, like, ugh, God, I'm the worst.
It's okay. I'm the same way with anything Square Enix puts out. It doesn't matter how horrible it is. I will just throw my wallet at the screen.
Nope, I get it.
Give it.
Speaking of horrible in Square Enix, that Avengers beta, wow, awful, just wretched. Sorry.
I played through the first mission through Taskmaster twice. It looked fine. It looked serviceable. It didn't wow me. It didn't look horrible. I enjoyed Captain America's combat. I enjoyed Black Widow's combat. I did not enjoy Iron Man's. Did not.
Thor's also was bad, and also the Hulk.
I don't know how to put it into words because I didn't spend that much time with it. I'll probably spend a little bit more next weekend when it's open beta for everybody. This weekend, starting by the time you hear this, it'll be open to PlayStation users or everybody. Pre-orders for the Xbox, if you've pre-ordered it at a participating retailer, you should have a beta code. If you don't, call your retailer. And then I believe, I can't remember if Steam is this weekend or if that's next weekend as well. But I know next weekend, everybody will be able to play it over the weekend. Yeah, was not that impressed. Just, I mean, it's going to be like Destiny, but Marvel Avengers. And
don't do Destiny like that. Don't that Like Destiny, okay, it has like a lot of problems, but that gameplay loop is wildly satisfying.
It is.
Everything else about the game is what it is. But like at least if like the actual like fighting gameplay loop of the Avengers was satisfying in like the same way that like any major action game is right now, like.
And I get that this first level that because you play as all the Avengers except
it's got to be like a full entire vertical slice of the cake.
Exactly. It's roughly the same thing I played at a closed door conference back in September of last year.
Someone special.
Yes, I am. I'm so important. But it hadn't changed. It didn't feel that different. It definitely had more polish. And the characters don't look so off as they did. I mean, they're definitely not based on the MCU versions. You're not going to have Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo and Scarlett Johansson's likenesses in this. And it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a separate universe. But they always felt a little off. Now they feel like they've come into their own, at least in the way their depictions are. But yeah, man, just the gameplay did not grab me at all.
No, and like I know that like this is going to be a big thing for them, and as a person who delights in nonsense, I will always be there for Square Enix, for giving me Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasies and all that nonsense.
And it's a big game too, from two studios that haven't really done anything of this scale. It's the primary on it, if I'm correct on this, is Crystal Dynamics, the Tomb Raider studio. And then their support, I don't know if they're the same level, if they're like 60-40, whatever, is Eidos Montreal. They've done the Deus Ex games. And that's who's making this.
But
I'm sure tons of other studios have been outsourced to help make this, but those are the two primaries on it. Square Enix is just publishing it.
Yeah.
But hey, the PlayStation's got Spider-Man exclusively.
Oh yeah, wow. I say as I loved the Insomniac Spider-Man, but like it's not as good as the Insomniac Spider-Man. So.
No, it's not. You think the Insomniac should have made the game?
I mean, I stand Insomniac, and I have since like Spyro, so it's hard for me to not be like, yeah, they should make it, but I'm waiting on Miles Morales, and I'm waiting on the next Ratchet and Clank, so that's fine. Those are the things that I wanted from them anyways. So but also I don't super care about Marvel games as it is anyways, so
And then games themselves, we had some rumors early on that games were going to go up $10 and they were going to be $69.99 for the next generation systems. Looks like Ubisoft is committed to $59.99 on their earnings call. Do you think, as someone who is so ardently behind the capitalistic system, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely right.
Well, I mean, games have been $60 since around the end of the PS1, beginning of the PS2 era. It's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what now, almost 20 years, give or take, and games have not risen in price. Would you have been okay with a $69.99 game price point, or do you think it should have gone up? Do you think it should stay the same?
I mean, I'm a person that paid $60 for a 15-hour remake of a Game Boy Color game, so my level of value for money is a little different. But I mean, absolutely, costs have risen to make games, but. Here we go. Are the people actually making the game seeing the money if those prices rise? I would feel okay paying more for something that I know that like the people who actively made it are getting the money and having equitable labor.
Yeah. Not based on Metacritic review scores or
no. Yeah. Like.
Or profit sharing, like or whatever Borderlands and 2K or Gearbox does.
It's just, I don't think the current AAA system is tenable in the future. And as costs rise, yeah, absolutely, like prices will have to rise. I understand like how that goes, because making an SNES game isn't the exact same as making a friggin' PS5 game.
Yes. Like if you just sit and watch the credits from any AAA game now, I mean, it takes...
It's a movie itself.
Yeah, it really is. And the amount of studios that get outsourced to for the small work, it's insane How many people go in? Puts a Marvel Avengers movie to shame. How many people work on a single AAA title game, and the crunch environment. I've worked at a AAA studio, not on the dev side, but I've been there when the people have been huddled over their dev kits, wanting to go home, looking like and I've seen them sleep at the studio, and I'm just like, this isn't worth it. But then you look at a studio like Nintendo and what they've done with Animal Crossing, and I mean, look at how they've handled themselves with the whole pandemic situation and the way they treated their teams.
That was one of the things that I was sad to have, Animal Crossing be pushed back originally, but at least they were like open and honest, saying it's like they wanted to treat their employees better, which that could easily just be a PR stunt, but I believe the best of Nintendo because they hold my childhood memories. And it's just things like that make me want to support you more, like treating your employees better and giving them a little more than what is normally considered as worthwhile treatment in terms of the game industry. It's something that I want to reward with my money, and I was going to buy Animal Crossing anyways, but it kind of softens the blow of it having to be pushed back a full, financial quarter or two.
Yeah.
In terms of me getting my complaining animal simulator, and you see that like throughout the end of the world that they have maybe pushed out content a little less than I would like, obviously. But since they don't charge for any of that, it's not like I'm like sitting here like, my money's going nowhere. No, these are all free updates. And like, this is the same team as Splatoon 2. Like, it's like the same development team under Nintendo. And when like they were up at like, when they were like full steam, Splatoon 2 got like mad free updates after it released.
You got the Splatfests and whatnot.
New weapons all the time, new gameplay modes. Just they showered that game in content. Unlike Nintendo has done with Super Mario Party Get Wrecked. And so I know that I think had like the end of the world not happened and like other working conditions had been different, I would have gotten a lot more in terms of content from Animal Crossing, and I wouldn't have paid a dime for it. Like this is just like what they do, which is one of the reasons why I, love to buy Nintendo, because even though they have some of the worst consumer practices in the industry, they also have some great ones. And because they make pretty colorful games that I like to play often.
Indeed, like Tokyo Mirage Session.
God, baby's first JRPG nonsense. I love it. Just absolute nonsense. Just give me them singing and fighting demons. Transcendent. But that's more Atlas than it is Nintendo.
That's true. That is very much more Atlas than that. Well, that's going to do it for episode 99.5 of the Free Play Podcast. Thank you for sticking with myself, your cut man, Jonathan Clausen, and Aaron Hansen. So also don't forget, you can follow us at the Free Play Podcast and Love Thy Nerd on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Love Thy Nerd on all three platforms. And don't forget, we now have masks, people. We've got cool masks with our LTN logo. So if you feel like wearing some nice capitalistic branding, no, I'm just kidding. We're 501c. Don't worry about that. If you would like to wear some masks, some clothing, some themed llamas, anything that you would want to show your love for Love Thy Nerd and help support the work that we do, just head on over to lovethynerd.com. We'll also have a link to the shop in the show notes on our website. And if you are not a part of our Facebook group already, feel free to jump onto Facebook and look for Love Thy Nerd. And to get into the group, you only have to answer a simple question. What's up, nerd? You can type in almost anything you want. Bubba will take a look at it and you'll be in. And if Facebook's not your thing, because if you're under 35, you can also join our Discord server. Again, we'll have the links for that in our show notes. And you can listen to our other shows, the Pull List Podcast, the Book Club, Humans of Gaming. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Music, YouTube, radio.com, and as of last month, we're finally on SoundCloud. And if we're not where you like to listen, just let us know. We'll put it where we can, and that, I think, is about it. Aaron, do you have any words of wisdom for us before we sign off?
Stream Chromatica by Lady Gaga.
Thank you so much for listening to the Free Play Podcast, and be with us next week when Bubba, Matt, and Kate are back for episode 100, and you don't have to listen to me and Aaron again. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
You have been listening to the Free Play Podcast with Bubba Stallcup, Matt Warmbier, and Kate Katawaki, part of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network. Be sure to rate and review the show and share on all the social media.